1. This is not the song I wanted. Oh well.
Yeah, this is a good intro song. Keep it going.
Turned down for what?
Is this like Enya or something?
Dude, don't knock Enya. Enya's the shit.
Oh,
He's trying to get Baby Kara to sleep.
that was Explosions in the Sky. I
Oh,
had the wrong.
yep, that's my jam. Explosions in the Skies like got me through college.
It's like lineup building music and focus
Yep.
music for me. They actually have like they have a list on Spotify now called Deep Focus, and that's what it was stuck on, not the Turn Down for What song I thought I was playing. Anyways, we're focused right now on the Fantasy Insiders Daily Fantasy MLB show, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you can get
On the Apple App Store.
Oh, yes. With us today, we have Davis, Dan, and Derek. I don't even know why I included someone that didn't have a name that started with a D. But, guys, not a bad Wednesday slate for tonight.
No, if there was no weather, it would be like one of the best slates we've seen in a while in terms of picking from hitters. Because then you could straight go Strasburg and then take really any hitter you want. But now we're having to have lots of conversations about weather. I see that smirk, Derek.
I love Davis's just like, I don't give a shit no matter what. I'm playing Strasburg. Matchup, irrelevant. Other pitchers going today, irrelevant. I'm sticking with Strasburg. He's my man, and that's
I've
it.
taken him
Don't try
every
to tell me differently.
taken him every start this year. It's worked out like one time.
He's got some
You gotta
Strasburg
stick to it
stuff.
though, especially because of the Twitter wars that have happened.
Yeah. With draft cheat and cards, dude. I am all aboard this. I might. If we get an indication that game is gonna happen for at least 6 innings with no interruptions, I think I have a FanDuel lineup ready to like export all with Strasburg in it.
You might get the chance. It looks like the weather's moving back a little bit.
My brother is in Cincinnati, and I've been texting him all day, bothering him, trying to tell me what the weather is like. And he's like, "Dude, I don't care about your fantasy baseball. Like, you gotta stop." So that's been pretty fun. Outside of that, we have the San Francisco Cincinnati game, the Washington Philly game, and then the Boston Red Sox Cleveland Indians game. Are there any other ones that I'm missing that have weather concerns?
I think that covers it.
Okay, cool. I'll have the page pulled up during the show, and if it updates and we see anything different, we can do a breaking news thing, since David's favorite thing to do is play that deafeningly loud sound drop.
I will try not to.
I guess we should say that it looks like the Blue Jays Tigers game it's in a window where there's 0% rain, but then there's a 45% chance of showers right at the start of the game.
Yeah, even though, I mean, maybe it gets delayed, but like throughout the night, it looks clear. So, I mean, even if it starts an hour late, it doesn't matter really.
All right. Well, let's talk about pitchers. Let's talk about David Price and the 9 righty lineup, and we'll let Derek explain why Price rates so high in the system despite facing 9 righties.
Despite facing 9 righties, which I have a feeling is going to throw a lot of people off Price today, I'm still calling him, probably the top player or top pitcher today. He's definitely going to be in all my cash game lineups. I mean, it's all righties, but it's all like terrible righties. Like, there's a grand total of 2 major league caliber hitters in that lineup. Like, it doesn't matter.
No way, dude.
Yes.
Five of them have a greater than 347 weighted on base average over the last 3 years versus right-handed pitching.
I don't see Dink in the chat, and I think it's because
He knew this was going to happen.
No, because I think Derek offended him with his article today in saying that Ed Lucas is barely better than a pitcher. I'm pretty sure Dink is really mad about that.
That is Dink's like best friend for like the longest time. So he hits left-handed pitching well. I've taken him a lot versus lefties just because the Drew Dinkmeyer connection, and it works out. He does hit well against lefties, and so does Reed Johnson. Now Solano and Mathis, those guys, you're not really worried about those guys. But what I was talking about with Derek on GChat before the show was just that on average a pitcher is going to allow the platoon advantage side, whether it be right or left, on base more often, and that to me increases their pitch count. Basically,
I'm completely with you on that. Platoon advantage is super important, and Price actually has kind of not an extreme, but like an above average platoon split himself. I mean, he's a lot better against lefties than he is against righties. But just the quality of the righties in this lineup, I just don't see it. I think when you're going up against Jeff Mathis and Hechavarria and Solano and Jeff Baker and Reed Johnson, like it doesn't scare me. Like I think Price is going to have a good night tonight, regardless of all righties.
Tuttle, where do you fall on this?
I don't know. I think I'm with Derek. I think he is. I don't have a problem saying he's the top pitching option tonight. I was mad because I really wanted to roll him out last game in Boston where they put 6 lefties up against him, but the weather kind of scared me off that situation. His ERA is not where you want it to be, but the peripherals indicate that he should. His xFIP, his FIP are really good. The only concern, I guess, would be the home runs that he's allowing, but I don't see that as a reason not to take him tonight. I think he is probably the top pitcher, but the righties are a little more scary than what they would normally roll out.
This is where I'm at. I see it two ways. One, I absolutely hate taking guys who, and I've talked about this on the show a bunch. I hate taking guys who are going to be against 8 or 9 guys who have the platoon advantage on them. I think it puts them in a not optimal spot. 2, I don't really like David Price as a pitcher that much anyways.
Oh my gosh, get out of here.
like any other day I'd be completely with you. Like, a guy has a platoon advantage against 0 hitters in the lineup, like, it's a big red flag and he's probably going to be down on my list. But today's just an exception. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree with you.
It's because Derek. It's because Price is so much better than at home, right, Derek?
Do not get me started.
Yeah, he pitches way better at home. That's what the data seems to say. No, I mean, in all reality, for me, it would be an easy choice if there were no weather concerns with the Nationals game. I would just take Strasburg. But I think a lot of people in chat or listening to the show are probably wondering why we are talking about David Price when Adam Wainwright, who by most measures has been the best pitcher in baseball this year, is pitching against a weak offense. So for me, it's just that the Royals don't strike out. They strike out 15% of the time, which is the lowest in the league. The next closest is 17%. Like, they just don't strike out, and they're not good. Like, don't get me wrong, the Royals are not a good baseball team, but the upside for Price is just much higher against the right-handers in that Marlins lineup that are not good, and even their good hitters strike out a lot. Is that about it?
His price hasn't decreased at all either after the one, and you wouldn't really expect it to after the one bad start. But you don't want to pay, top dollar for a guy that has, somewhat limited upside because of the opponent he's facing. I think that's the case that you're going to have with Wainwright tonight. With that said, I think he's actually a decent option if you're looking to make, a little more of a contrarian GPP lineup. I think he probably will be under-owned tonight just because, recency bias. And I don't think that last start's reflective of his ability by any means. So I think he will be under-owned. So if you want a spot to take Wainwright in a GPP, I think tonight might be your night to do that.
He's definitely going to be under-owned because I think a lot of the GPP entries, maybe not a lot, but I think some people will take the chance on weather with guys like Strasburg and probably not Kluber given how intense the forecast is for that game. But if Wainwright does Wainwright things and goes out and pitches 8 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts, he's absolutely going to be under-owned. But the upside with Price against that Marlins lineup is higher. Okay, so outside of those guys, I think the next sort of tertiary option you look for on a second pitcher site, I think most people are probably looking at Josh Beckett versus the White Sox. When looking at Vegas lines and pitcher skills combined, is Beckett someone that you are on, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually really upsetting that Ian Kennedy isn't that game is not included in most of the slates tonight because I really liked Ian Kennedy tonight. And even Liriano, I thought, was a solid play tonight. But without them, I think Beckett is kind of the next guy I'm looking at.
I don't even like Josh Beckett. I kind of just in general don't.
That's
ever
how
really
everyone
like to
feels
take
about
him.
Josh Beckett, and it's so unfair because Beckett is a good pitcher.
Is he a good pitcher? I have not even opened his Fangraphs page since the no-hitter.
He's
just
a good
because,
pitcher. He's had a year or two where his peripherals didn't match his ERA, and he's had some injury issues, and people they disregard him unfairly. I feel because he's a good pitcher.
Yeah. Where are you at with Beckett total?
A guy I actually like a little better than Beckett would be Derek's long shot pitcher. And I think a lot of people will be off of him because of, again, recent performances. But I actually think I like Edwin Jackson a little more than Beckett tonight. I think he provides you a little more upside. So if you're going to take the risk, I generally go with the guy that I think is going to provide you more upside. So I think that's Edwin Jackson tonight. Even though it's an ugly play, and when you put him into your lineup,
that's who I'm using too. Because I really don't like Beckett. Jackson, and I didn't know if we were going to talk about him or not because he is so gross and there's so much blow potential. So I'll let Derek talk about Edwin though a little bit.
I like Edwin. Edwin's another one of those guys like Beckett who has kind of had some bad luck and people disregard him for it. And now it's like, a year and 2 months of bad luck. So people are like, oh, like there must be something wrong with Edwin Jackson. But I mean, to really with batting average on balls in play and home run per fly ball rate and stuff like that, to really get a good sense of a pitcher's true skill with it, it takes a long, long time. So unless there's some other reason we think that he's, that this batting average on ball and play thing isn't just unlucky, I mean, he's a good pitcher, and he's a good pitcher in a really good spot tonight against a terrible offense, and a terrible offense that strikes out a lot, which is a rare thing.
Dave, give us a breaking news sound clip. Maybe. Oh, come on.
David.
Yeah, he's just chilling back with his red Solo Cubs.
Yeah.
Not giving us
For
breaking news.
everyone listening to the show, David is drunk right now.
So drunk, and he can't even give
oblivious
me.
to what's happening? It seems
He can't give me the sound clip for the DD Gregorius. We have DD leading off for the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight in Coors Field. Only site he's going to be available on, I think, is FanDuel, and he doesn't have that attractive of a price there. But I think it's certainly an option that I think people will probably overlook. Players usually get overlooked on their first night back off the DL.
He got mentioned in the ESPN Daily Notes today as being in a good spot.
I think, though, the thing with the good spot thing, I mean, Coors Field's a great field if you have power. Gregorius doesn't have very much power, so I don't know. I mean, it's a decent spot.
Tell that to DJ LeMahieu, Derek.
DJ LeMahieu does have a little bit of power. I like LeMahieu.
Worst. No, he's the worst. So is Charlie Culberson.
Culberson's not as good.
Yeah. Soccer Dave, just so you know, no one can hear you. You are muted.
What?
He is. I think Dave actually is drunk.
Yeah. No one can hear him talk right now.
You're drunk for making me do a breaking news sound for DD Gregorius.
Yeah. All right.
That's worth it. A guy whose name is Didi always deserves a breaking news sound,
and
no matter the situation.
He was a lot like Segura last year, where he started out really hot, and then Arizona grew tired of him once he went cold. He was really good for a little bit last year.
And to Cardi's point about maybe not having as much value in cores for power bats, all I have to say is Chris Owings.
Chris Owings, I told you to play last night, and everyone was like, "Isn't Chris Owings a terrible player?" And I'm like,
"That
Shut
was
up. Chris Owings
that
is
was
good.
that was me. That was me."
I love how your impression of Davis is very feminine.
Rage. The one other, we just got a question in chat about Dice K. The thing I'll tell you about him, he pitched out of the bullpen 3 days ago, 22 pitches. So he's going to be on a pitch count. He's definitely not going to go that deep into the game. I just, even in a GPP, maybe just because the Cubs are so terrible, but he is not in a hashtag pretty good spot because he's going to be on a pitch count.
He's not
I
a good pitcher.
I like the
regardless.
hashtags.
That's the other thing I like about Edwin Jackson is that Matsuzaka's terrible. The Mets bullpen isn't very good when he comes out of the game. So, I mean, even though the Cubs offense kind of itself sucks, I mean, you're not going to have a much better chance to put up some runs than against Matsuzaka in this Mets bullpen.
I think I took Rizzo in my DFS Elite game versus Tuttle. I think he's there's no reason to take him with the first base options that are on board today, but I think he's in a hashtag pretty good spot versus Dice K. Are there any other starting pitchers that we need to talk about before we move on? Does anyone I don't know, Estrada?
Yeah, I was just going to say Estrada I think is at least worth mentioning as a GPP guy.
Yeah.
He's going over to the American League, so there's going to be a DH in play. But it is a better park. The Twins aren't very good, so I'm not against Estrada.
I think I'm going to challenge that notion that the Twins aren't very good. I was thinking about this last night today when I was doing the recaps for the Insiders DFS page, but with Willingham and Arcia back, they have 5 above average
it makes a
major
big
league
difference
hitters.
having them back for sure.
They have Plouffe, Dozier, Mauer. That's not a bad lineup.
I think they're, I don't know, slightly below average, we'll say. How's that?
That's probably fair. Do you like Estrada tonight, Tuttle?
I took him against you in Elite. I liked his price there.
That was a mistake.
I think he's a decent option. I don't think his price is particularly attractive anywhere where
it's not.
I mean, if I saw, I guess on DraftKings where Estrada is actually $200 less than Jackson, I think he's definitely in play there. But other sites, I don't think he's at a price where I would really target him.
Yeah. And I think actually it's worth mentioning tonight on Draft Street, I think the most optimal strategy is 2 starting pitchers and 1 relief pitcher. Who would be the relief pitcher you guys are looking to use? For me, the guy I slotted in is Joaquin Soria. Is there anyone that jumped off the list to you, Derek?
I thought it was a really tough day to find relievers. I put Romo in my article just because he hasn't thrown since last Thursday. The Giants are a little bit of the underdog in that game, according to Vegas, but I think Vogelsong is a little bit better of a pitcher than maybe Vegas is giving him credit for. So I could see it being kind of a close game and having Romo maybe with a save op, or if not, just getting in the game to get some work in anyway.
Tuttle?
Yeah, I got nothing for you. I tried to play Trevor Rosenthal last night in one of my Q lineups, and that didn't work out too well. He actually got tagged with the loss. Pitched in the top of the 9th because he hadn't pitched in a while. Allowed an earned run and got tagged with the loss.
That's what, I mean, honestly, that's what I try and do. I just try and find a guy who hasn't pitched for 4 or 5 days and then slot him in. Soria hasn't pitched in 3 days, and I do think Texas not Texas. Who does that's not
Texas.
Right? Yeah, okay. I don't know why. I was just thinking, Joe Nathan. No, that was 4 years ago. Yeah, so I think Texas probably gets the better of Baltimore tonight. I don't know. Relief pitcher is always a gambit, but there's not a third starting pitcher that I feel the need to slot into my lineup tonight. So that's probably the direction that I'm going. Let's talk about it. Wait, I'm gonna do this for everyone who's listening. All right, cool. Let's talk about hitters. starting with our stacks. I don't think it's a super obvious tonight because neither team in Arizona, Colorado is throwing out a lefty, so there aren't crazy, ridiculous platoon advantages everywhere. So, what's the first team you're looking to stack, Derek?
I'm gonna stay away from that game just because it is, it seems very cliched just to go for whoever's in Colorado. So I'm gonna throw out the Giants. They have a lot of good righty bats. They're getting a huge park bump going from AT&T to Great American Ballpark. And Tony Cingrani just is a mess this year. I mean, his big thing coming into the year was he was throwing his fastball 85% of the time, which is awful. You can't get away with that. And he realized it, so he cut his usage down to 70% this year. The problem is he can't throw his secondary stuff for strikes at all. So he's walking 5 batters per 9, and he's just a disaster. So I think given that and given the park bump, I think San Francisco guys are in hashtag a really good spot tonight.
Hashtag really good spot. That's the team that I'm all over. If that weather clears up, I think I'm rolling Posey, Morse, and Pence in every single lineup. This is definitely a thing with me where I had him that Chicago Cubs start where he melted down, and that sort of opened my eyes to how terrible he was. And then I started digging into his Fangraphs page, and I was like, oh my god, he had a 250 BABIP versus right-handed batters when he was good. So that's not going to sustain itself. And yeah, he's just definitely not that good. And when Matt Latos comes back into the rotation next week, he's going to the minors. So this is going to be our last chance to pick on Cingrani for a while.
Yep, gotta take advantage of it.
Yep, stack him up, Total.
I think Oakland would be the top stack. Oakland are one of the teams in Colorado, Arizona. And I think to be honest, I think those three teams are really where you want to get your bats from. But yeah, I like Oakland quite a bit against Nuno, who's
Did you say bats rubbed?
What's up?
What did you just say?
What?
Your bats rubbed?
Dave, you're drunk. You're drunk. Go home.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the A's either way, but Dave's drunk. And we'll get to it eventually, but actually Lowry's back up batting second, so I think he's a pretty solid shortstop option. Much better from the right side.
Is he in a hashtag pretty good spot?
He is in a hashtag pretty good spot.
The one thing I want to mention about that game, I completely agree. I think Oakland guys are great tonight, but especially like on Draft Street, it looked like some of their prices were just like jacked up. Like Josh Donaldson was like 10K.
Mm-hmm.
And the park shift, at least according to my park factors, isn't as favorable as you would think it would be. It's only like a 15% boost in home runs, and it's like a 10% loss in batting average, like a 15% jump in strikeouts. So like, it's not like as ridiculous as it looks like on first glance. But Oakland's still, good plays tonight. Just don't go crazy with it.
Yeah, catcher's probably where we're going to go next, but who would you guys take if it's Derek Norris or Miguel Montero?
I have Norris. I have Norris ahead. That's just me though. Because I'm an A's catcher whore.
I'd take Norris too.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. He's actually cheaper, I think, in most spots. I think on Draft Street they're pretty much the exact same. But I like Norris quite a bit because he is one of the cheaper Oakland bats you can get. I like Lowry, who's in hashtag a pretty good spot. And Gentry leading off is also, a solid price across the industry.
He'll be under-owned tonight. And I want to caution people against, real quick before we get into batter analysis, there are going to be people who take Garrett Richards tonight. Don't. Just save yourself the trouble. Like the Astros are, with the call-up of Singleton, they're now officially an above-average hitting team. Like they do strike out a lot, but you can't do it.
Derek?
That's just how it is. Derek can disagree with me all he wants.
Derek loves his stuff.
I don't think I do disagree with you. I like Garrett Richards. I think Garrett Richards is a very good pitcher, but I think Houston's offense is getting sneaky good. So
yeah, and so that's the only thing I wanted to mention.
He's also in a bad park tonight. He doesn't have the home field advantage. I mean, Richards is not in a hashtag very good spot tonight.
True. The only other stack, obviously the Diamondbacks and Colorado both in a pretty good spot. The thing.
Oh my gosh, you ruined it.
I did. I didn't mean to. It's happening. The thing I wanted to talk about real quick, just a little bit of strategy talk before we talk about positions. So last night, my cash game lineups featured, out of all of my hitter spots, 7 or 8 spots were occupied by Diamondbacks or Rockies. That obviously didn't end very well because the only runs the Rockies scored were on solo home runs. And Nick Evans and Chris Owings were the ones doing the damage for the Diamondbacks. And
oh, you didn't have Chris Owings in your lineup? I totally did.
Stop it, Derek. Oh, you're the worst.
If you didn't have him on Draft Street, you just should stop.
Yeah, that's where I had him.
I think I had. Oh no, I had Bogarts, so I did fine. But I think there is, no matter how good of a spot a team is, I think there is a lot of variance to stacking up 8 guys from one game in a cash game lineup. Because basically, if that game goes unexpected, if there's a weather factor you can't account for, if the wind starts blowing in halfway through the game, whatever, or if a pitcher just has the ground ball pitch going that day, your night is like completely over, pretty much. So we're in a similar situation tonight with Arizona and Colorado having a 10.5 Vegas over-under, with Colorado, I think, having a 5.5 run team total. How do you approach that situation for cash games, Tuttle? Would you say that last night was the right process and you do it again, or that it's just too variant for cash games?
I'm definitely gonna tend to have more players in my lineup, than the typical player when it comes to Rockies games. I'll tend to, if it's a close call between a couple positions and a couple players, I'll tend to play the guys that are playing in Coors. I do think I've noticed more a little this year that the general public playing DFS is a little more attuned to knowing that you want to have exposure to the games in course, so you don't have quite the advantage that you did last year. I mean, you would play games last year, and people would just be oblivious to the fact that the ball flies out of course, and they wouldn't have appropriate exposure. And I think that is kind of that advantage there is decreasing a little bit. But I thought last night was the right process, and I would have done it. I would have stacked that game again.
So would you say then that if everyone is on to playing guys in cores, that there's an advantage to be had for playing guys in other really extreme ballparks that don't necessarily have the same reputation, like Great American or USL or a park like that?
I think I've noticed the US Cellular one for sure. People don't really account for that with visiting batters as much as they should. Like when the Padres were there, I noticed, not that Carlos Quentin went insane or anything, but his own percentages when he had the game where he had the platoon advantage was way lower than I thought it should have been. It was like 10% or something in double ups. So I think there is a little bit of an advantage to that. Let's get started though. Let's talk about catchers. We've already talked about most of these guys. It's Derek Norris for me. Who are you looking at, Total?
I'm just reading DP's response in the chat on why the advantage is decreasing. But go ahead. We said catcher we're looking at now?
Yeah, well, I have Norris. I think there are like three. I think you have Norris, Posey, or Montero. Which one are you taking out of those guys?
It's Norris for me, based on price and matchup. I think he's the top catching option tonight.
I think overall it's Posey. I mean, Great American Ballpark is a better hitter's park than Coors Field. I'll say it. It is. And Singrani, we talked about.
I don't know about that, dude. That seems like a lot. I think by every park factor you look at, Coors would come out ahead.
Not mine.
Well, you regress out all the home runs, dude. Like every Bartolo Colon pitching appearance in Coors Field never actually happened.
No, I think Posey, I mean, he's expensive, but if you can fit him, Posey's my top catching option, but I have no problem with Norris either.
All right, and I think him and Montero are like almost the exact same price on Draft Street. As of right now, I have Montero in at my U slot just to get some more exposure to that game because he's a super fair price there. But if I'm choosing between both of them, I think you have to take Norris. Also, Norris has an advantage that once they get into the bullpens, he can actually hit same-handed pitching better than Montero can. So I think that matters. Because if we're really expecting Oakland to destroy Nuno this bad, he's not getting out of the fifth inning probably.
Oh gosh, should we get another Alfredo Aceves appearance? Because that would be absolute gold for any Oakland bat. Oh, nope, it looks like he just got DFA'd. So we won't get Alfredo Aceves, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. That's an easy conversation, though. I think shortstop and second base are actually a much more difficult conversation tonight. Because outside of Tulowitzki, I don't know what middle infield options I really like. Who's your top second base option tonight, Derek?
1 sec. I think Jason Kipnis is a good second base option. Second base is kind of ugly tonight, but I think Kipnis is good. He's playing at home. Workman, I don't think very highly of. He's got the platoon advantage. Kipnis's price, last I checked, was still lower than I think it should be based on what his underlying skills suggest. So I think Kipnis is a good one tonight. I think, what does Baltimore's lineup look like?
Yeah, Scope down
Scope
batting
is seventh, and Hardy's at sixth. Yeah,
Scope's okay. I would have rather seen someone regardless, he's not playing. I think Brandon Phillips is solid tonight. Vogelsong isn't a very good pitcher. He's playing at home in the best home run ballpark in baseball. So yeah,
that's
so ugly.
That is a ridiculous claim, Derek Carty.
That is not.
I will absolutely agree with you that it is easily in the top 3 parks that I want hitters in, but more so than Coors is just Coors has made Charlie Blackmon someone that I thought it was okay to take in a WOBA bet versus David Ortiz.
Listen, your own faults and shortcomings should not factor into this decision.
No, but guys like Corey Dickerson are
Okay, go right. I'm not even looking at my park factors right now. Go to Stat Corner. 117 for Coors home runs. 147 for Great American Ballpark. It's not even close.
Is that this year or what?
Yeah,
That's their this year factors, I guess.
you'd have to look at the 3-year.
No, I think they factor in 3 years. They do a little bit of regression. Mine's a little more rigorous in the way they do it, but the way they do it is still pretty solid. From
No one
what I
regresses
recall.
home runs more rigorously than Derek Carpenter. I promise you that.
The rigorous regression of home runs.
I don't hate Tuttle's idea of Didi Gregorius. He's a little bit too expensive on FanDuel, but for a stack, I don't hate that at all. But the second base, that's at shortstop. The second base option I'm all over tonight is Brandon Hicks. He's 3.7 on Draft Street. He's 2.7 on FanDuel. He's really inexpensive on DraftKings. I don't remember the exact price. But basically all that dude does is hit home runs. Like, he has runs created plus of like 120 or 123, something like that, versus right-handed pitching. But like, he's like batting like 220. All he does is hit home runs, so that's probably my undercover dong of the night off Singrani. That's the guy I'm looking at. What about you, Tuttle? Are you looking at like Aaron Hill?
Yeah, I don't mind Aaron Hill. He got moved back with Didi in the lineup, batting up top. It looks like he's batting, what was it, 6th or 5th? Looks like 6th tonight. So he's not in as good as a spot. Another guy that I think is going to go under the radar would be, and he doesn't hit as good from the left side, but I think Zobrist is decently priced. It's not a great, park to hit in. It's not a great situation, but he's going up against Kohler. He's batting second. He's dirt cheap on FanDuel or on DraftKings. He's like 3,600 there.
Yeah, I'm cool with Zobrist.
I think he'll get overlooked. Oh, and I'm looking at Draft Street now. He's 4,432. I think that's an absolute steal on Draft Street for him.
Yeah, I'm definitely still just taking Hicks because I hate Singrani so much, and I'm finding it hard to get exposure. It's hard to expose yourself to a dude, you know?
It
Not
is.
that hard.
It is.
In terms of shortstop, I think Tulowitzki has to be a guy you try and fit in your lineup at some point. I think you have to have a conversation with yourself. Are you taking Donaldson or are you taking Tulowitzki? Is Tulowitzki someone you're trying to get in your lineup tonight, Tuttle, or no?
Like you said, if it's between the two, and I think it is between the two of Donaldson and Tulo, I think I'm going to try to get Donaldson in my lineup, as crazy as that sounds, over Tulo. I don't think it's
that's who I'm taking too.
I don't think it's an absolute necessary play to fit Tulo in your lineup, but obviously it's not a mistake to do it.
I don't even know if Tulo is like the slam dunk number one option. I mean, he's probably number one for me, but I think Hanley is really good tonight too.
Yeah, and that's a game that I have not heard talked
John
about
Danks
at all.
at home. He has the platoon advantage where Tulo doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, Hanley's in a good spot.
bold call tonight. Puig and Hanram are going to be underowned in like whatever qualifier and going to propel someone to like real close to getting a qualifier seat, because I haven't heard anything on those guys tonight. People are talking Cespedes, Donaldson, Blackman, Dickerson.
I like
Nelson
both of them
Cruz
a lot tonight.
Yeah. Now Puig's price tag is just like insane. He's in the Nelson Cruz stratosphere of being like, if you're taking him, he has to hit a home run or you're like completely sunk. Yeah. Moving on, though.
Go
ahead.
No, not even moving on. I think if you don't want to spend there, like if you do go Donaldson at third base instead of Tulowitzki or Hanram at short, I think Jed Lowry, we mentioned him earlier. Jed Lowry's awesome tonight, and he's reasonably priced.
Yeah, and obviously and this actually is true. This dude on Twitter, Macho Hombre Sports, he's always in my mentions talking to me about Blue Jays bats, and I'm like, yeah, they're okay. And like it's true, we actually don't talk about Toronto on the show that much. And what I think it's a function of, I would imagine, is that they faced a lot of right-handed pitching, and so like guys like Encarnacion, Bautista, Reyes, Melky, whatever, they don't show up on a lot of the. They don't show up on a lot of the models because they don't have the platoon advantage. That's just my guess. I don't actually know. But yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. We should talk about them. A lot of those guys, Encarnacion, Bautista, are in hashtag pretty good spots against Porcello. Well, except Porcello is a ground ball pitcher, and just in general, that can lend itself to situations where you're tweeting out, "Oh my God, Cy Porcello, can't believe this. This is terrible."
Well, it's the same. Like you said, they've been going up against a lot of right-handed pitching, but then their price is just insane. So if they don't have an ideal matchup, it's hard to justify spending on them. So I don't think it's necessarily that they're getting overlooked. It's just that, I mean, their price is at a point where you really they have to be in a good, or pretty much the perfect or ideal spot to fit them into your roster.
Yeah,
Well,
and they're nowhere near that tonight. They don't have the platoon advantage. They're getting a much worse park. Porcello is actually a decent pitcher. I mean, I think they're just way too expensive tonight.
Yeah, and there's like a little bit of rain concern, whatever, and I mean, also, you don't turn into the show to hear us be like, "Gotta get Edwin Encarnacion in your lineups." Like, that's not really our function as a program. All right, first base. Unlike last night, I don't think that there is like a super slam dunk option that you have to put in your lineup on any site other than Draft Street, where Chris Davis is 6K. He's also under 10,000 on draft day if you play there. So I think that's sort of just like you click submit and like you feel good about it there. Outside of Chris Davis, who is a first baseman you're looking at, Tuttle?
I think a cheap option on DraftKings, and he's an outfield option on FanDuel, would be John Singleton. If you're looking to punt the position and go really cheap, he's 2,200 in the outfield for FanDuel, but he's 2,700 on DraftKings. It's 5,000, so a little more on Draft Street. I don't think I would play him there, but I think he's a real solid option on DraftKings, where he's only 2,700.
I can get behind that where he's super cheap. I think if you're not going Davis, who's clearly the top first baseman tonight, I think Mitch Moreland, where he qualifies at first still, is a really good play tonight against Bud Norris at home with the platoon advantage. He's batting third, so all over Moreland tonight. You mentioned Rizzo earlier. I like him too. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Moreland. And so he's outfield eligible on FanDuel, but let's have the John Singleton conversation here. So, like, I saw that price tag on FanDuel today, and I was, like, sick. I can take Donaldson now because I can slot Singleton in. He's 2.7 on DraftKings. I didn't look at his price tag on Draft Street just because I'm only taking 2 starting pitchers tonight. I don't need that hitting value quite as badly. You're the scout, Derek. Talk to us a little bit about Singleton. I actually don't really know anything about him. What does he profile as?
I haven't actually had a chance to watch much tape of him this year. He's had a lot of trouble the past couple years with drugs and suspensions and stuff like that. But when he's on the field and he's focused and he's healthy, he profiles as a guy with plus, maybe plus raw power. Probably not going to do a whole lot for you in terms of batting average. He's going to swing and miss. He's got a little length to his swing. But he's got power. He's going to draw tons of walks. And that's kind of what you're looking at with him.
Do you think he's more like a 250 hitter or like a 235 hitter?
Right now, I think he's closer to 235. I mean, eventually he'll wind up being a 250 hitter, 260 hitter, but right now I don't think he's there.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously I think that there's something going on inside of the Astros organizations that's like, hey guys, just go out there and take your hacks. If you K a lot, that's whatever, but you're also going to get some balls over the fence. And I mean, he did the same thing Tavares did. He came out and he hit a home run, his very first game. So I think that definitely matters, or at least I think it definitely matters in terms of his own percentage tonight. I think that significantly more people are going to be on Singleton tonight than they would have if he hadn't hit that home run yesterday. But he's definitely someone I'm locking in on FanDuel for 2.2, just because I don't think you can get someone with those skills that way.
I think, too, he's a little bit more of a GPP kind of play in the way that, Adam Dunn is, because he's a little bit of, a boomer bust kind of guy, because hits are going to be few and far between. I mean, maybe he'll give you a point or two from a walk, but unless he hits a home run, he's not probably going to contribute a whole lot for you. So in a cash game, he's a little bit, I don't know, sketchier.
I bet he scores more points than Cody Ross did last night.
That's not going to be hard.
Cody Ross is the worst.
Yeah.
He's never gotten a hit when I've rostered him, not even once.
What would you compare him to in the real world? Something appealing.
A hot girl who invites you over to do her homework for her, and then you have to leave.
It's something appealing.
Wow, Davis a total nerd. Is that
I mean,
is that
I
the
was-
life of Davis Maddock?
I was in high school before I got handsome and tattoos and stuff.
Hey, girl, you want me to come help you with your speech?
Cody Ross is like a drunk soccer Dave that can't get you sound clips when you need them.
No, that's like our lives right now.
Yeah, no, that's not a good analogy at all. Something
All right.
It's something appealing that is not fulfilling in the end. That's what
Yeah.
I was saying.
That's terrible, David.
No,
Terrible.
it's a rhyme. I rhymed it. I totally rhymed it.
Yeah, you're drunk.
Hey,
you're
hey.
still drunk.
Hey, David. All right, cool.
You've already said it 8 times. I'm keeping track.
Cool.
9.
Third base. Josh Donaldson. I'm not taking anyone else. I'm like carving a space into my lineups for him. Just
Even on
because-
Draft Street, you're carving a space for him?
Dude, I have him and Tulo in on Draft Street.
How are you pulling that off? Are you playing 2 relievers?
No, I'm playing Beckett, Price, and Soria. So
Okay.
everyone come take my head-to-heads on Draft Street tonight is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And if I had to choose between the two of them, Donaldson would be like my number one hitter for the night, basically like Nelson Cruz was last night. Now, Cruz didn't get his home run off of Saunders, so take that for what it's worth. But I just think we talked about this on the show in terms of like must-play hitters, but I think Donaldson is pretty close.
I mean, I think he's great. He's easily the top first base option or third base option tonight. I don't think he's my top overall. I think Chris Davis is, but I don't know where the price is reasonable. I'm totally fine putting Donaldson in and then working around him, but I don't think you have to do it where his price is just absurd when it's $3,000 higher than it is the next third baseman.
He's super expensive. Like it's pretty ridiculous. How do you feel about this, Tuttle? Is that like I know you're probably not. Are you even playing cash games tonight?
Probably not.
If you
Give me
were-
Donaldson though.
Yeah, I think you feel way stupider when you're like when the daily home runs account is tweeting out like, oh, Donaldson double dong. Like you feel way dumber seeing that tweet with him not in your lineup than you do paying up for him when he goes 1 for 4 with a double. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make up for that in other spots, but you're gonna feel so dumb when he scores 15 FanDuel points.
Well, I think there's a pretty big drop off. I mean, you have Donaldson, and then I think the next tier of guys would probably be like a Juan Francisco, and then Adrian Beltre would be kind of my next 2 guys in line. So I think there's as far as matchups go, I think Donaldson by far has the best. And I think there's a fairly decent drop off between those other 2 guys. I think those would be the 3 guys that I'd be rostering though. If I had to choose someone other than Donaldson,
Why?
it'd be Beltre because of price, and then Francisco with the platoon advantage.
Why is everyone all over Francisco? Like he has a platoon advantage, but he's hitting what 6th, 7th. He's getting a bad park against a pretty good pitcher. I don't know.
He's always hitting 6th or 7th, and he just like he's another well, and he was really good like 4 days ago, so people are on him because of that.
I mean, I love Francisco. I mean, I have him on all my year-long teams because I love cheap power. But today, I don't know. I don't really see it.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, more so, I guess. Well, I left out Prado, who's actually batting cleanup. I think I'd put Prado, even though he doesn't have the platoon advantage, I'd put him above Francisco. But I mean, really, if you look at the other third base options, who else is there that you want to take?
Well, I don't think Beltre's bad. I mean, I hate to say it because he's burned me so many times, but I don't think Longoria is bad. I think Sandoval is pretty good. The park swing there is just huge, even though he hits
but he's not
righties
good
a little better than lefties.
Yeah.
He's not what?
No, there's a big platoon split for him.
Yeah,
Much
but
bigger than you would expect from a switch hitter, is basically what I'm saying.
He has one of the biggest true platoon splits among switch hitters, and it goes the wrong direction. But I just think with the park swing, he's still an option tonight. I think Todd Frazier's a decent option tonight.
Yeah, I mean, one of these times we're gonna get the Vogeldong performance where he gives up like 4 solo shots, but I don't know if it's tonight. It could be. Real quick before we transition to outfield, stat of the day. This one courtesy of Drew Dinkmeyer. He was so excited when he found it that he G-chatted me. He's like, dude, you have to do this as stat of the day. In 62 plate appearances this season at Coors Field, Justin Morneau is striking out 3.2% of the time. He is putting the ball in play, and Cole Mentor is only striking out, I think, 14% of left-handed batters. So Morneau is sort of my guy for. That's who I'm locking in at first base, just because I think he's affordable most spots, and Coors Field, I like it better. Except where him and Morse are both first base, I think that's a conversation because I think basically that his power plays really well versus Cingrani. Outfield.
Yeah, Coors Field depresses strikeouts by like 15% for lefties or something like that. So I think that has a lot to do with Morneau's stat there.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it did me a lot of good last night.
It did all of us a lot of good last night. All of us enjoyed that 0 for 4 so hard.
I played Chase Anderson last night, so it was okay.
You are the worst.
Get at it.
Can we talk about how Goldschmidt got subbed out for this Nick Evans dude, and then Nick Evans donged? I think that was actually the worst of the night. That was
No,
Goldschmidt's
it's because
dong.
Kirk Gibson is a genius.
No, have you heard? Okay,
Dude, how many times did Parra get on base last night?
lot.
Batting cleanup against the lefty. He's
Batting-
a genius.
Dude, so I heard him talk yesterday on the Rockies broadcast. He sounds brain dead, like for real. It's bad. He just might not be an intelligent human being.
That's your recency bias. We do have a good question here. Chris Davis
Yep.
versus Morneau, if they're priced the same.
It's not even close for me. It's Chris Davis.
So, yeah, and I'm going Coors. I go more now. And people forget how good
Hold on, Davis.
Justin
Hold
Morneau
on.
is.
Hold on. Dan, I want you to break the vote.
Hold up.
He's gonna say Chris Davis.
Let me get
I
my
think David-
coin. Let me get my
Davis
coin
might
here.
be top
No,
hitter overall
no,
today.
screw the lucky coin.
It's Justin Morneau according to the coin.
Boo.
That's what I think it is, though. I think it's a coin flip between them.
Although we do need one of those for Cardi when he's on the fence.
Yeah, I could definitely be benefited by one of those. But I'm not on the fence about this one. It's not even close for me.
Okay, everyone in the chat who's making fun of me, go look at what Morneau has done in his career. Look at
I
how
like Morneau. Morneau is
Just-
underrated, but
didn't
the
he win an
matchup is-
AL MVP
Hey.
once?
Wait,
yeah, undeservingly won it. But I mean, he's a good player.
nobody
But-
is making fun of you. They're just saying that.
Yeah, I don't see anyone making fun of you in chat either.
They're saying they go Chris Davis. That doesn't mean they're making fun of you, Mr.
No,
I just
Sensitive.
You and Dink are brothers. You're overly sensitive.
Gosh.
Listen, if I get lumped into the same group as Dink, I'm fine with it.
Oh, sweet. That is so sweet.
Outfielders.
I'm
We
glad
gotta talk about outfielders though, because there are a lot of different ways you can go tonight. I don't think we need to talk about the obvious guys. Gentry is obviously a nice value everywhere, leading off. Cespedes is obviously in a hashtag pretty good spot. But I wanted to talk about some other guys, especially the guys we haven't talked about who are outside of the teams that we're stacking. I'm gonna let Derek talk about Hamilton and Josh Hamilton returning from the DL and Calhoun leading off versus Cozart, because Cozart is straight fastball, high velocity, but not very good command or control type pitcher.
Well, let me just go on the record saying I don't think Gentry is as good play as you would otherwise think. There's a big park factor related batting average drop off there, and he doesn't have the power to take advantage of the real benefit of that park swing. So, aside from that, some of the guys that I like that aren't obvious, like Colorado, San Francisco kind of guys tonight, I think Puig is awesome against John Danks at home. I don't think we've mentioned a single Dodger aside from Puig and Hanley, but they're both awesome tonight. Matt Kemp, I think, is also a pretty good play tonight. I don't mind Bruce against Vogelsong at home with the platoon advantage, even though he hasn't been that great. I think he's good. I think Adam Jones, he continues to be reasonably priced. He doesn't have the platoon advantage against Nick Martinez tonight, but he's still a good player, and Martinez is not. So I'm all about that.
All right, Tuttle, who are some outfielders outside of Diamondbacks, Rockies, and A's that you like? Anybody?
I can't believe I've gone this far without saying Matt Dendecker, but he has made the broadcast. Ben actually wrote him up, and Ben wanted to put Edwin E5 as his cover boy, and I overrode him and made Dendecker the cover boy.
Why? I played him when you were pimping him on Monday. What is your fascination with him?
He actually hurt me big time by
Yeah, he
robbing
was
that Ryan Howard home run.
Yeah, he wasn't that great at the plate.
He had a stolen base last night.
Yeah, and that's what you're taking him for tonight. I actually like Edwin Jackson, but you and Derek eliminated pretty much any outfield option that I could pick. So next in line is Matt Dendecker. But Ben touched on the fact that he's leading off and he's going up against a catcher. Ben thought he was facing Wellington Castillo, but he's actually facing John Baker tonight, and Baker just can't throw runners out. So there's 13 attempts, 13 people have stolen bases on Baker this year. So if he does in fact get on base, I think there's a pretty solid shot that you'll get a stolen base out of him.
Cool.
I want to mention my boy Gerardo Parra because he caught so much flack from Dink last night for batting leadoff. But
Deserve
tonight,
it.
But tonight he's got the platoon advantage. He's in Coors, which is Coors is a good hitter's park. Platoon advantage against Lyles. Parra is undervalued player to begin with. I like Parra tonight as like a cheap kind of fill-in guy towards the end of your roster.
And in terms of the guys I brought up, I really think Calhoun and Hamilton are going to be under-owned tonight in a good hitting environment versus a bad pitcher with a platoon advantage. Calhoun is not priced like he's leading off one of the best offenses in baseball, and he's leading off for one of the best offenses in baseball. So I really like him tonight. I think I'm an Angels homer a little bit. I seem to always gravitate towards him and Crone and David Freese, stuff like that. So
don't roster Trout.
He killed me on Sunday with that late scratch.
Did he even have a plate appearance last night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had one. He screwed me. I mean, that's the thing with when you're doing those little mini stacks and you include a big name player, then they get scratched or taken out early. It really just devastates you. Well, I guess that way with any sort of stack. When you stack a team hardcore and then one of those guys gets taken out, the power of your stack is just not as good, obviously.
It's like when a guy doesn't get a hit. It's just not good for your lineup.
Yeah.
If you roster a guy and he goes 0 for 5, obvious.
Those 0 for 5s on FanDuel just suck. They suck so bad. It's like the least amount of fun when you just see your guy out there hacking. The Kyle Blanks special, the 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on Draft Street. That's the Kyle Blanks.
Negative 2.25.
Yep. All right, guaranteed dong time. This is going to be interesting because I think tonight you're going to need a high score to cash double ups. I think there's a lot of offensive firepower tonight, unless the A's score 1 run, unless we get Cy Nuno, which might happen. If the A's score 1 run, a 25 on FanDuel might cash you in double ups. Guaranteed dong. I'll let you go first, Tuttle, since Derek needs to run through his model to decide.
I think I got mine, but I'll let Tuttle go first.
I'll go with Derek Norris.
All right, Tuttle, or not Tuttle, Derek.
Well, obvious one is Chris Davis, easily, and then under the radar, I guess I don't know. Pence probably doesn't count. Puig probably doesn't count, even though I don't think as many people are on them as probably they should be. I'll go Mitch Moreland.
Mitch Moreland, okay. My obvious one, no one said Donaldson, so I'm definitely taking Donaldson. And then my under the radar is going to be Josh Hamilton, because I think he's going to be less than 10% owned in every format.
My under the radar would be Corey Dickerson.
Wait, so your over the radar one is Norris?
Yep.
I thought he was your under the radar guy. Interesting.
You know me, I don't like laying chalk.
No, you don't at all.
Do we get to hear Dave? Do we get Dave's dongs for the day?
Mine was Chris Davis.
Yeah. All right, and one question before we do, I'm gonna regret this since I think this is a question a lot of people are gonna have to answer when they do lineups. Blackman or Dickerson, Tuttle?
Can I take my lucky coin out again and flip it?
Nope, you need to do some analysis-based analysis.
I would pick whichever one is cheaper on whichever site you're playing.
Dickerson's significantly cheaper everywhere, isn't he?
They're the exact same price on FanDuel, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so my hashtag analysis doesn't work.
Yeah, Draft Street is a lot cheaper.
Make the call pretending you're playing on FanDuel.
I will make a
I'll
call
take-
and say I'm playing both.
I am playing Donaldson, so I can't do that.
I would take Blackman.
I'm going to take Blackman, too, just because he can do the steals thing, and I don't think Dickerson does that. So, that's where I'm breaking the tie. All right, I'm going to regret this. What's the play or non-play you're making that you're going to regret, Tuttle?
I am going to regret rostering Edwin Jackson.
Yes, you are. So am I. Derek?
Yeah, I think that's the easy one to go with, so I'll go with something else and say I'm going to regret being so adamant about David Price being able to handle all these righties.
Yeah, that's definitely going to end bad. This is like David Price is giving up 5 earned runs tonight.
That is not definitely going to end bad, Davis.
No, it's not.
You're so dramatic.
I hate not rostering Strasburg when he's pitching. Like I hate it. I feel dirty.
You're not being true to who you are when you don't
Yeah.
roster Strasburg.
I'm not. I shouldn't let this stupid rain. And it's 0% for 7 and 8 p.m. Oh God, maybe I need to use Strasburg.
Just believe in yourself.
That's what I need to do. Whatever decision I make on Strasburg in terms of like relation to the weather, that's what I'm gonna regret. It's going to be a big time regret. Do you want to pull up that elite draft that Tuttle and I did?
I don't have a link for it from Grant, but what I do have is the Fantasy Elite Challenge, where 4X Challenge. Basically, the 4X is for the 4-person drafts, and they're having a leaderboard with the most wins and the most winnings. And if you're in the top 4 of either, you get entered into a $300 free roll during the MLB All-Star Game.
I think I'll probably be up on the wins leaders just from facing Davis.
I think I'm definitely, just for my sick run on this show, like I should definitely be in consideration because like Tuttle and Laffy can't handle me. Like, and
Okay.
I make Leone feel just embarrassed.
Okay, I may have been drinking quite a bit during the show, but it's not head-to-head. It's 4-person drafts. So you have to be...
Dang it.
Yeah. Therein lies the 4X challenge. So you have to... These are for 4-player games, and the free roll during the All-Star games are pretty cool. So it should be fun, and I know that I've had a lot of success in the 4X challenges, so I'll probably be on top of the winnings and leaderboards.
Strasburg's throwing 19 Ks tonight.
Davis, it's just not going to happen.
Ed Lucas is hitting 3 home runs off David Price tonight.
Oh
man,
no, that's a lock. That's a lock.
Dink will be the drunkest person tonight if that happens. Like, and it doesn't even matter if he has a sip of alcohol. He will be the drunkest person if Luke hits 3 home
Hey,
runs.
when we're in San Francisco, are we still gonna be playing MLB every day? Like, are we gonna have time?
Yeah, it's the way of life.
Yeah, why wouldn't we? It's like,
Unbelievable.
when you're going vacation,
Wait.
are you still going to eat?
So you guys are gonna be there like while I'm setting lineups. This is gonna be awful for you guys. You're gonna hate your life so much.
We'll send you. we'll send you somewhere. I did find there is one song on Spotify, and it's by Bill Frisell. I don't even know what it is, but I just feel like it has to take us out because the song title is A Good Spot. So.
Oh gosh. Hashtag pretty good spot.
David, can we get shirts made?
Stratford linked, or he did a hashtag pretty good spot and said that we need to do them. I mean, we're not billionaires, Kim. We can't eat at Applebee's every night, but we'll see if we could maybe at least print like some posters. I think it's just an instrumental. Are you freaking
I
kidding
love
me?
this song.
What a bunch of crap. All right, guys, that'll be it. Join us tomorrow for Nap, Dan, and Davis. We'll holler at you later. Hopefully you take down something tonight. And Colorado.
If you're playing a tournament, use Strasburg instead of Price. Just do it.
No. Use Colorado bats because no one's going to be on them
Well, that's not true.
because of last night. Recency bias is dead. All right, that'll be it.
Recency bias is dead. Bravo, Kitchen.
It's dead. We don't believe in that here.